If you are on the hunt for a new, super easy dinner recipe idea, you're in the right place today. Y'all know I love me a good casserole. There's just something about them that is always so comforting, so delicious. Only a few ingredients, and the best part is you really only have one dish to clean up after dinner. So in today's video, I'm bringing you my top 8 favorite casseroles. Make sure you grab your meal planner, your notebook, pen and paper, whatever, and jot down some of these ideas because they are so easy. You're gonna love them. Perfect for coming into fall and this busy time of year. Let's get started. Alright, this is probably the easiest recipe I'll ever film on my channel. This recipe is something that you need to have on hand for those nights when you just gotta get something on the table and you really don't even want to think about it. I know we all have those nights. So the first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna add one 16-ounce box of rotini pasta noodles. Next, you're gonna add one bag of frozen meatballs, a 14-ounce bag. This is a 32-ounce, so I'm gonna just add about half of the bag. Next, you're gonna add a jar of your favorite pasta sauce, spaghetti sauce, anything that you wanna use. Of course, I recommend Rayo's. And lastly, we're just gonna add 3 cups of water. So your pasta is gonna cook in the sauce and the water as it goes. And also your pasta will soak up all this liquid so it won't be liquidy when it comes out. It'll just be nice and saucy. But I'm gonna cover this with foil, and this is gonna bake for 35 minutes until that pasta is al dente. Alrighty y'all, so my pasta is nice and done. Those meatballs are warmed through. I wanted to tell y'all I did have to end up cooking mine for about an hour till my noodles got done, but it could be my baking dish, it could be a lot of things. So just keep an eye on it and keep adding a little bit of time, but I would say plan for an hour just in case. So now we're gonna add some cheese and pop this back into the oven for just a few minutes. Alright, so first we're going to get started with these white chicken enchiladas. So obviously right now I'm just getting some of that rotisserie chicken into a large bowl. So I'm just adding a little bit of softened cream cheese to my chicken, and then I'm going to add about 1 cup of shredded Mexican blend cheese. Just add that in with the chicken and cream cheese. I gave that a stir to get it all combined, and this is going to be our filling for our enchiladas. Next, I'm just going to bring over my 9x13, give that a quick little spray, and then we're going to roll up our enchiladas. I'm just using these low carb tortillas, but any kind that you want to use will be fine. Now, I'm not the best at rolling these up, but I did the best that I could, just added a couple scoops of that filling in there, and this makes 8 tortillas, which is how many came in my little pack there, so that was perfect. I'm just going to wrap each one up. I fold the 2 ends and then just kind of hold it all together as I roll it up until I get all 8 in my dish. Alright, next we're going to come over here to my skillet and we're going to make the most delicious enchilada sauce, and it could not get any easier either. So I just added a few tablespoons of butter to my skillet, added a few tablespoons of flour, and we're just going to whisk that around and let that flour cook down for just a couple minutes. And then next we're going to add in 1 packet of taco seasoning. So we're going to add in that taco seasoning, kind of whisk that around as well. It will look a little bit clumpy at this point, but that is okay. Next, we're gonna pour in some chicken broth and continue to whisk until all of those little lumps are smooth and your sauce starts to come together. We're also gonna add in some of that shredded Mexican blend cheese. We're gonna add sour cream and then 1 small can of the diced green chilies. And I'll just go ahead and tell you, this sauce is not spicy at all. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd maybe give it a 2. Like, you can taste the peppers in there, but it's really no spice factor. My kids loved it, and I'll also go ahead and tell you, my oldest said the sauce tastes just like the sauce in the Taco Bell quesadillas. If you've ever had one of those, it really does taste similar to that. So you can see how the sauce comes together. It'll be nice and creamy and smooth. So next, I'm just gonna bring back over all of our little rolled up tortillas, enchiladas, and we're gonna pour that sauce right over top. Does this not look delicious already? Next, we're gonna top with that remaining Mexican blend cheese. I also had a little bit of sharp cheddar that I went ahead and added just a little bit more. I felt like I needed a little bit more cheese on here. And this is gonna bake about 25 minutes at 350. I did broil it the last 5 minutes just to get that cheese on top nice and golden and bubbly. Y'all, this was so good. Like I said earlier, probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite, white chicken enchilada recipes. So easy to make, especially if you have that rotisserie chicken. If you like these Mexican, Southwestern type dishes and recipes, you're gonna love this one. Even your picky eaters will love it. Matter of fact, I just had a leftover one for lunch today and it was delicious. I'm just topping ours with a little cilantro for some color, but they really don't need any topping. That delicious enchilada cheese sauce is perfect. Perfect little wintertime comfort meal. So good. Next up, we have this chicken tot pie. And this is the perfect meal to make at the end of a busy day. All the flavors of traditional chicken pot pie with a tater tot crust. What's not to love? So we're gonna start with a skillet, of course. I have a couple tablespoons of butter. And then another little shortcut is I use some of these frozen diced onions. I only needed a little bit, that way I don't have to chop an entire onion. I just poured some of those into my skillet and they will saute up just like a fresh onion would. At this point, I'm also gonna add a couple tablespoons of flour and a little bit of salt and pepper to season it up. And I'm just gonna cook that 3 or 4 minutes to cook down that flour and the butter, and this is gonna be the perfect flavorful base for that chicken pot pie filling. Next, I'm going to whisk in some milk and also some chicken broth. I'm just gonna kind of slowly pour it in and continually whisk all that. It's gonna be smooth and it will start to thicken up. All right, next we're gonna add our veggies to our filling. You can add whatever veggies you prefer in your pot pie, or no veggies at all if you don't want any, but these frozen peas and carrots make this so easy, and again, just come together so easily and so quickly. We're also gonna bring back over that rotisserie chicken, and I have left this rotisserie chicken in kind of bigger pieces, and that way it doesn't dry out as quick until you go to use it if you're not using it, you know, for a day or two. But for this recipe, I did go ahead and break it up into more bite-sized pieces. Once we have everything combined, we're just gonna bring over a baking dish. And by the way, I actually halved this recipe and it was perfect for our family of 4, and we had a little bit of leftovers. So just saying, this recipe, it does make quite a bit, but we're gonna get that filling in our baking dish, and then we're gonna top with tater tots. And I just like to put mine on in one even layer. If you wanna line your tater tots up and make it all pretty, you can do that as well, but this is going into the oven for about 45 minutes, and then we're just gonna pull it out, and this part is optional, but the recipe I was following topped with a little bit of sharp cheddar cheese, and we love cheese, so I thought we would try it. And it was so good. The tater tots actually got very crispy even with the cheese on top. It only bakes about 5 more minutes after you add the cheese. Once that cheese is completely melted, you want to serve it up nice and hot. This one actually surprised us a little bit. I knew that we would enjoy it, but even the flavor was a lot more than even I anticipated. So this is a perfect weeknight, super easy meal to add to your rotation. Tater tot sausage casserole. This recipe comes to us from Plain Chicken, and I'm super excited to give it a try because I don't think I've ever tried a breakfast casserole with tater tots. One of my most favorite breakfasts is a big bowl where you have hash brown, sausage, cheese, egg, even some sour cream. And this sounds just like that in casserole form. So let's give this a try. All right, we're gonna start by browning up our sausage. And by the way, I am halving this recipe. This recipe, let's see how many servings it says it makes. Well, it says it's 6 servings, but it does use 2 pounds of breakfast sausage. And I think this will be plenty for us. So I'm halving it, but the recipe I'll link below will show the whole recipe. All right, while our sausage is starting to brown up, the recipe does not say to do this, but I think I'm gonna pop these tater tots in the air fryer just for a few minutes. I really like my tater tots to be crispy, and I think those will be really good in this casserole. So I'm gonna pop them in there just, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, just that way, hopefully they hold a little bit of their crispness in there. And by the way, you can make this breakfast casserole ahead of time. So if you want to make it the night before, and that way in the morning of Christmas, all you have to do is pop it in the oven. This is a good option. All right, while our sausage is browning and we have those tater tots going, let's go ahead and work on our little egg mixture as well. So like I said, I am halving this recipe, so I'm just gonna use 4 eggs. To our eggs, I do have some garlic powder, onion powder, salt, and pepper. We're just gonna add that in. And we're also gonna add in some milk. Now we're just gonna whisk everything together. All right, our sausage is done cooking. We're just gonna add it to a large bowl, and you can drain your sausage. This is just, as you probably saw Jimmy Dean, I don't typically have a whole lot of grease with it, so I'm not even gonna worry about it. And here are those tater tots as well. This is just some sharp cheddar cheese that we freshly shredded. It calls for 1.5 cups total. This is actually 1.5 cups. We're just gonna add it in. Y'all know we'd like some cheese. All right, let's gently give all of this a toss. All right, let's bring over our baking dish. Give it a quick spray. Then let's add our tater tots, cheese, and sausage mixture. Yeah, I think cooking those tater tots for a few minutes beforehand was definitely the right move, if you want your tater tots to still be a little bit crispy. I didn't want them to be like mushy in there. Next, we're just gonna bring over that egg mixture, and we're just gonna pour it evenly all over top. And if you are making this ahead of time, the recipe says you can go ahead and do everything up until this point, even for your egg mixture on top, and then you'll just cover it with some plastic wrap, pop it in the fridge, and it said it may just take a little bit longer, of course, for it to bake, since it has been in the fridge, if you do it that way, but we're gonna bake ours right away. All right, oven is preheated to 350, and this actually bakes for a little bit. It's gonna take about an hour to about 1 hour and 10 minutes. Alrighty, y'all, I'm gonna go ahead and pull this from the oven. There's about 7 minutes left to go, but it is looking pretty golden brown and delicious. Smells absolutely delicious as well. I'm just gonna let this sit probably for about 10 minutes or so, just to kind of let everything soak back in there, and then we'll cut into this. All right, let's go ahead and cut us up a little slice, give it a try. And I'll go ahead and tell you, this made a perfect amount for definitely our family of 4. I would say even probably 6 people could eat this by halving this recipe. All right, and like I said, I love to add a little bit of sour cream to my little breakfast bowls. So I thought, why not do that on this as well? All right, look how good that looks, y'all. Got everything in there, those crispy hash browns, lots of cheese, egg, sausage. Served it up with some fresh fruit. This would make an awesome Christmas breakfast. Alright, so I already have my chicken in my bowl. Next, we're gonna add the rest of the ingredients. The first one, you're gonna pick up some refrigerated sour cream style French onion dip. You wanna get the kind that's refrigerated in the grocery store. So the recipe calls for a cup. This is actually 12 ounces, but I'm just gonna go ahead and use it all because there's no sense in keeping a tiny little spoonful in the container. Next in is 1 can of cream of chicken soup. Next, we're gonna add about a cup of shredded sharp cheddar cheese. Next to the bowl, the recipe calls for 2 cups of cooked instant white rice. You could totally use a packet of the instant rice. I just cooked up some brown jasmine rice earlier. And last but not least to the bowl, we're gonna add about a 1/2 cup of chicken broth. And y'all, does that get any easier? We're gonna mix this up. We're gonna top it with some French fried onions, and this will be ready for the oven. All right, so I have my 9x13 baking dish here. I know it's kind of hard to see since it's clear. Just gonna give it a quick little spray. Next, we're just gonna top with some French fried onions. The recipe calls for 1/2 cup, but I mean, you know, just go for it. Just do whatever you feel. I think that's a better plan. All right, this is gonna go in the oven at 350 degrees for about 20 to 25 minutes until that cheese is nice, hot, and bubbly. One more thing, if you don't like onions and you're still watching this recipe, you can totally do this without the onions. Yes, I know we have a lot of oniony things going on in there, but I would suggest just not using the crispy onions on top, obviously. And then in place of the French onion dip, just use sour cream. I still think that would be a really creamy, cheesy chicken and rice casserole. You could even top it with some buttery Ritz crackers or some cornflakes, even just breadcrumbs. So you can totally make this even if you don't like onions. So this is chicken and cheddar bay biscuit bake. Let me show you how to make it. All right, first things first, we're gonna preheat our oven all the way to 450. We're getting the oven super hot because with this recipe, everything's pretty much gonna be done in our skillet, but after we put that biscuit topping on top, all we're gonna be doing is cooking those biscuits. By the way, you could make this a 1-pan meal if you have a really big or just a large oven-safe skillet. I'm gonna just make our filling in my skillet and then put it in a casserole dish, really because I just need a really pretty picture of the end product. All right, to our pan, we're gonna add 1 medium onion that we diced up earlier. We're also gonna add about 1/2 cup of diced carrot. Stir, and we're just gonna let this saute for about 5 minutes until these onions and carrots start to soften up just slightly. I'm adding in about 2 cloves of minced garlic. We're also gonna sprinkle in 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. We also have 1/2 tablespoon of poultry seasoning. Lots of good flavors in there. We're just gonna give this a stir and just let this cook for just another minute. We're basically just cooking out this raw flour taste. All right, next we're gonna add in about 2 pounds of cubed chicken. We just cubed this up into bite-sized pieces. I like to keep them up pretty small for this. We're also going in with 3 cups of chicken broth. This is actually just water and the Better Than Bouillon paste. We're also gonna add in 1 cup of milk, and we're just gonna bring this up to a simmer. This is a little bit different than my normal type of filling, especially with chicken. We're just gonna cook the chicken in with all these good seasonings and our broth and our milk. It's just gonna create a really tender chicken inside our biscuit bake filling. One more ingredient I almost forgot to add. This is about half a cup of frozen peas. And of course, these will thaw out and begin to cook. We're gonna get started on our Cheddar Bay biscuit topping. And like I said, this comes from my grandma. She always made Cheddar Bay biscuits. I've shared that recipe with y'all before, but it must start with this Southern biscuit mix. It is the Formula L, and what kind of makes it so special, this is a just add water mix if you're just looking for regular biscuits, but I want to show y'all for the ones who haven't seen, it actually has little, they call them golden flakes, but they're like little flakes of butter in your mix. So I already have about 3 1/4 cup of that biscuit mix in my bowl here, and to that, we're going to sprinkle in, this is about, how much cheese is this?
It's a heart measured half a cup.
A half a cup measured with a heart, so it's probably a little bit more than half a cup of freshly shredded sharp cheddar cheese. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and mix our cheese in with our flour, just until we have everything nice and evenly incorporated in there before we add in our buttermilk. Because I remember, even from when I was little, after you add the buttermilk in and you begin to stir, you only want to stir as few times as possible, so that way your biscuits are not overmixed. That's one thing I remember specifically that my grandbob told me.
That makes it like fluffy still?
Well, you don't want to overmix your biscuits because then they'll just be tough. So literally, y'all can see how many stirs I'm doing. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4. I feel like that owl with the Tootsie Pops. How many stirs does it take to get the perfect biscuit? All right, one more and we're gonna be good. All right, now we're carefully gonna bring over our mixture, and I'm just gonna transfer it into my 9x13 here. All right, so I have my biscuit dough over here on the side, and I'm just gonna scoop biscuits. These are drop biscuits. I'm just using my little ice cream scoop, and we're just gonna place a few biscuits right on top. All right, depending on how big you do your biscuits, this recipe does about 12 biscuits. I have just a little bit of that biscuit dough in there, but no worries. All I'll do is just bake these up on a pan, and we'll have some extra Cheddar Bay biscuits to sop up all of that delicious chicken stew in the bottom. All right, so we already preheated the oven to 450. This is going in there for just about 10 to 15 minutes until our biscuits are slightly golden brown. All right, while our chicken bake is finishing baking up, we're gonna make a little garlic butter topping to go on top of those biscuits. It's gonna send this over the top. I just have 1 stick of butter melted here. To that, I'm just adding half a teaspoon of garlic powder, just a small sprinkle of black pepper, half a teaspoon of salt, and I would also add in some chopped chive as well, or you can do some dried parsley. So let's just give this a mix and set this to the side. Look how good this looks. Oh my goodness. And we ain't done yet. Lastly, I just have our garlic butter up here, and we're just gonna brush the biscuits. Oh my goodness. This is so good. This is pure comfort food. Oh my goodness, y'all. These things look delicious. I'm so excited. I say that about every meal because I am so excited about every meal that we cook. Every recipe. Look at that filling in there.
It looks amazing.
Yes, it sure does. Start our squash casserole. We're actually gonna pre-cook our squash. We're just gonna add it to a big skillet here, or you can use just a big pot, whatever. And to this, we're also gonna add half of a chopped onion. To that, I'm gonna add a sprinkle of salt and some fresh black pepper. And now to cook these up, we're just gonna add just enough water to cover everything. It's just kind of eyeballing it, depending on how many squash and onions that you use. That is probably almost enough. So I have my stove a little bit over medium, and we're just gonna continue to cook the squash and onions together until our squash soften up. Our squash and onions are soft. Get a little steam facial while you do it. So I'm just gonna drain these, and one thing I really like to do with my squash casserole anytime is really just push out all of that water, because we're gonna be adding some liquid anyway here in a minute, and we don't want it to be watery. So we just want to drain this really, really good. All right, our squash and onions have been drained really well. I just put them back into the pan. So now we're gonna add just a little bit of seasoning. I've told y'all before, that's one thing about these church cookbooks, they really don't call for a whole lot of seasoning. I'm just using some of this Dano's. I've showed it before, but I really love this seasoning. Not sponsored, because it doesn't have a lot of salt in here. It just has a lot of flavor. There's garlic, onion, what does it say, lemon, orange. It does have a little bit of salt, mustard seed, lots of good stuff in here. So let's just give it a little sprinkle, and it goes pretty much with everything. Next to our squash mixture, we're gonna add 1 can of cream of chicken soup. I feel like this part is pretty basic so far, but y'all just wait. I want y'all to let me know if y'all ever made it with this next ingredient, or not the next one, but here in just a second. I have never made it with this, but looking through all these church cookbooks, I noticed this ingredient in like tons of the squash casserole, so I wanted to try it. We're also gonna add 1 cup of sour cream. All right, so now we're just gonna give everything a mix. All right, let's move that to the side. So next, I've just melted 1 stick of butter. And to that comes in our kind of unique ingredient. I have never added stuffing mix to my squash casserole, but it just sounds delicious. I love stuffing mix, especially this Pepperidge Farm. So we're gonna add about half of this bag in here, maybe a little bit more than half. I'm just gonna use my same little spatula, and we're just gonna stir this stuffing mix around with our butter. And this stuffing mix is another ingredient that I've noticed so much in church cookbooks. And I think when a lot of these church cookbooks were written, this was, I don't know if it was a new product, a new item, but it was a popular one for sure. It's in so many different things. Normally on top of my squash casserole that's actually in my cookbook, we use just buttered Ritz crackers. So this part is a little bit unique as well. We're actually gonna put all of our stuffing breadcrumbs in the bottom of our dish. And Darren and I were just talking, this is a really good idea, especially if you've ever had a squash casserole and you haven't got it drained. It could be a little bit watery. I think this is like genius, because it's basically just gonna help soak up all that moisture, and then you're just gonna be left with that delicious, perfectly cooked squash. Now we're just gonna bring over our squash mixture, get it on top as well. All right, let's get this spread out in here. Y'all, this already looks so good. I'm so excited. And lastly, right on top, we're gonna add some sharp cheddar cheese. I already cannot wait to make this for spring and summer. This would be a good side dish, in my opinion, with anything. So I about used this whole bag, which was about 2 cups of cheese. All right, y'all, I have the oven on 350. This is going in there for about 30 to 40 minutes until we're hot and bubbly. Y'all know the drill. All right, y'all, our squash casserole is bubbly and hot and looks and smells absolutely delicious. I cannot wait to give this a try. Let's plate this up. Cheesy, oh my gosh, that stuffing on the bottom gives a little bit of crunch. If this does not scream church cookbook, church potluck, homecoming, I don't know what will, friends. Poppyseed chicken casserole. I know I've had this in the past. It may have been my grandmother who made it. I can't remember, but I do remember it was really good, and this is so easy to make. This is actually gonna come out of our church cookbook, and I'm not sure, I'm pretty sure this lady in here, yes, she's definitely a grandmother. So sticking with the grandma recipes, let's put this together. This is something that everybody will like. Even the pickiest and smallest little eaters. All right, so we are gonna be using a rotisserie chicken for this recipe. This is probably more than we need. We need about 2 or 3 cups. I'm just gonna add it to our bowl here. All right, so to our chicken, we're just gonna add 1 can of cream of chicken soup. All right, next to that, we're gonna add a whole 16-ounce carton of sour cream. Now, this recipe in the cookbook does not call for any seasoning. That's one thing that I have noticed about the church cookbooks and recipes kind of passed down. They don't really add too much seasoning. Let me know if y'all have noticed that. But we are gonna add just a little bit. I'm just gonna add a little bit of this Dano's. It's an all-purpose seasoning. It's great on everything. I don't even know what's in here, but add whatever seasonings you like. At least a little bit of salt and pepper, I would say. Now, I can appreciate recipes for not adding seasoning because some you don't need to cover up the flavors. Like the flavors that you're working with are good enough. So, all right, we're gonna give this a mix. And like I said, this is a very basic recipe. Y'all let me know if your grandma, or if you are a grandma, you ever made this recipe. This reminds me a lot too of Shirley's chicken casserole. It's pretty much the same exact thing, except on top you use stovetop stuffing. It's in my cookbook and I've shared it before. But anyway, I have my poppy seeds over here, but I'm not gonna mix these in the mix. I'll tell you why here in just a second. All right, so we have our baking dish here. Give it a little spray. And I love recipes like this. Y'all know I love a good casserole anyway, but a recipe like this you could mix up ahead of time, maybe before church or just earlier in the day is perfect. That way all you have to do is pull it out of the oven, pull it out of the fridge, maybe let it, come to room temperature just a little bit, pop it in the oven, and you're good to go. The only thing I will say about this recipe in particular is I would not make it ahead of time with the Ritz crackers on top because of course they're gonna get soggy. So I'll just wait. All right, so the poppy seeds, we're gonna add to most of it, but I'm gonna leave a little corner over here in the back. We're gonna be sharing this recipe with my grandmother and she doesn't particularly like little seeds and stuff like this, so I'm just gonna leave that out. If you don't wanna use the poppy seeds at all, you really don't have to. You can't taste them, I don't think. All right, so I'm just gonna kind of stir these in just on this side over here. All right, I'm gonna put this to the side just for a second. We're gonna bring over another bowl. Now I have, is this a whole box of Ritz crackers?
Yep.
4 sleeves of Ritz crackers here. I'm at least gonna use 3 of these. This recipe in particular calls for 2, but I like a lot of topping. I feel like I've told y'all that plenty of times. But let's get our Ritz crackers into a bowl. I'm just kind of crunching them up as I go. You don't want them crushed real fine. You do want to leave some bigger pieces in there. All right, so I ended up using just about 3 sleeves of those Ritz crackers. I have about 1/2 cup or 1 stick of butter. I may even use more than that because we want to moisten up all of our Ritz crackers. So let's give this a stir. Let's see if we need more. I can already tell I'm gonna need a little bit more. Yep, see how it's getting there, but I want all of these crumbles to have a little bit of butter on them so that way when it bakes in the oven, it really does become more of like a crust. So I'm gonna start with another 1/2 stick of butter. All right, I don't know if y'all can tell on camera, but that is kind of more how you want it to be. Now all we're gonna do is add our cracker topping to the top. All right, we already have the oven on 350. I'm gonna go ahead and cover this and put it in there for about 15 minutes and then uncover it for the last 15 to kind of let the top brown up a little bit. All right, y'all, here is our poppy seed chicken casserole out of the oven. It looks delicious and it has been sitting just a few minutes actually. So let's go ahead and serve it up. Smells absolutely delicious. This is truly a crowd pleaser. Y'all give this one a try. Alrighty, my friends, if you've made it this far in the video, please leave me any kind of food emoji down there in the comments. I would love to know that you stopped by today. Also, by the way, my name is the same across all of my socials. I would love for you to follow me over on Instagram and TikTok. I'm sharing a lot more of kind of daily life and things like that over there these days, so I would love to have you join me. All of these recipes will be linked down in the description box below. Also, my cookbook is linked down there as well. Thank you guys so much. I hope this video brought you some inspiration, and I'll see y'all real soon in the next one.